Okay, so I was asked if I could show some samples of the types of points that were used or made in the Americas besides stone points. I mentioned that wood was one of the most common points, or is the most common point. And I have a wooden one here that I cut off the tip of a Comanche type arrow that has this is wood here, I think it's hickory, and it's got 3 sides to it. Okay, fairly common to put these facets on it, but you can also have just a tapered wooden point, either 4-shafted or self arrow. You know what I mean? I cut this one off an arrow just so I could save the point, so I can get the dimensions off of it. Okay, but you can see, you get the idea from it. Now this one is it's almost 9 inches here with, let's see, 8 3/4. But with just down to the before the tang here, I think it's 7 inches. I think that's pretty common size. Okay. Now the next common point was a bone. Okay, these are cow bone. This one is cow bone also, and this one is antler. Now this one is the type that I haven't sharpened it, but it's a type you insert into the void. I had some other antler tine arrowheads, but I can't find them. So this is my indirect percussion flaker, or one of them. And I just drilled out the pith from this tine. It's an elk tine. So you can kind of get the principle behind it. The arrowhead would be just sharpened, not this fat, of course. It'd be more along the lines of, this, a little bit thicker than this, but the pith drilled out, okay, and about 2 inches long. All right. And like I said, you just sharpen it after you've got it drilled. Drilling it first and then sharpening it afterwards works better. Okay, because I've had a hard time before where I was sharpening all these tines and then drilling the hole after, and they weren't perfectly straight. I had to realign the tips. So drill the hole first into the pith and then sharpen them after. Another type of bone point is this one here. It's a triangular shaped bone, right? Piece of bone, hafted into a V notch, a long V notch. You don't see that too much. It's 4-shafted, but I made it just out of curiosity. 124 grains for the whole thing. This little piece of antler here is 58 grains, 3 inches long. This one here, some of the California Indians made points like this out of bone, 50 grains. It hasn't been sharpened yet, so it loses a bit when you sharpen it, so maybe 45 grains. And this one is or it should be in one of the Overstreet guides. You can get an exact size for this, and that's how I did it. I traced it from the Overstreet guide, the Overstreet price guide. Now, in the Americas, these long bone points were more like this type here, where it's just a smooth bottom that you insert into the shaft. Okay. In Europe, you have a tapered, either tapered to one side or tapered both sides. Okay. You do have some of this. I have a paleo bone point that is tapered like this. Looks like it's made out of mammoth bone or something. But anyway, I've seen this type of point in a museum in pictures of displays in Europe. This type of bone point with the like a wedge shape at the base. But in the Americas, it's more of a tapered. You know what I'm saying? More of a tapered tang to it. Now this one is 326 grains, and this one's 270, both cow bone. I think I said that. You can see the difference in thickness. Now, that lateral darts are going to have thick bone points, and arrows are going to have a thinner bone point than this. Okay, I just made this one out of a big piece of bone that I had. That was the thickest I could get it out of that cow bone. So I just left it. But if I was going to use this for an arrow, I'd thin it down more. It's almost too thin for an lateral dart. I could probably still use it for an lateral dart, but for an arrow, it seems a little bit better, and I would thin it down. So it wouldn't be 326 grains. I'd probably thin it down to about 200 grains. Okay, now alligator gar scales are not bone, I don't think. I think they're ivory. And if you haven't seen them before, this is about average. They can get a lot bigger and they can get a lot smaller. Now, this one's 12 grains and this one is 14. And you can see how easy it would be to haft these. These are just straight alligator gar scales. You can buy these to make pendants out of. Some of the jewelry supply companies sell these. There's a little bit of curve in some of these, but they're fine. Okay. 14 grains, 12 grains. And you can use these for doing notches in arrowheads or fine work, but you don't want to use the pointy end. You want to use the base. It's a lot more substantial, okay? But what you want to do is haft it into something with a good glue, and it's easier to use. Okay. So the most common stone point is the triangular. I would say around this size, you can't go wrong. Okay, this is 38 grains, inch wide by 1.5 inches long. You can find these almost everywhere in the Americas, North America. Almost everywhere in North America, at some point, use this type of arrowhead, just a simple triangle. And they range in size, of course. This one's about 14 grains, or the same as the alligator gar scale. This is quartzite, very common. This one here, 44 grains. It's a little bit thicker. Okay. These are about the right sizes, the common sizes that were used for stone, almost everywhere. Okay. You can get much smaller, of course. I got a little tiny one here. These were used also, a very small size. It's about 7/8 long by 1/2 inch, almost a 1/2 inch. That was pretty common too. All you need is something sharp at the end of the arrow. It doesn't really matter the size too much. And this one is, I didn't weigh it, but it's probably less than 10 grains. The Friley that I made in the video, that one is 18 grains, 3/4 inches wide by exactly 1 inch long. Now most guys, when they go hunting, they want to use a 150 grain arrowhead. This here is 146 grains. Yeah, so that's what you're looking at compared to what arrows usually had. Something like this. This is actually in that lateral dart point. But you know, you can hunt with these on an arrow, but this is what was normally used. Okay, 146 grains. This one here is 110. It's a little bit thinner. This is more substantial. 110 grains. Inch and 1/8 wide by 2.5 long is 110. You can also use this type with a stem. This one here is 158 grains. A little over 2.5 inches long, 1 1/8 wide. Okay, so that kind of gives you an idea. You also, this notch type was common out west. 38 grains. Okay. This one here, 72 grains. Just kind of give you an idea of the weight and the sizes. I think this is probably the average size. Okay. Not very heavy. 38 grains is not very heavy. All right, so that gives you kind of an idea. Another cool thing that I made lately was this gauge for gauging the diameters of different foreshafts and the different areas along the foreshaft. You know what I mean? Like where you insert it into the shaft is one diameter and there's another diameter near the tip. So you can use these different gauge holes for that. Also for judging the thickness of or the diameter of arrows or little darts. This is for the little dart here, and these down here are for arrows. Okay, this is a bighorn sheep horn. I'm pretty sure. Can't remember. It was a gift. Thank you for the gift. The pentagonal that I made in the video is let's see, 78 grains. Final dimensions, 1.75 by 1.25 wide at the widest point. Pretty thin, which is common with these pentagonals. They get pretty thin, and a lot of bold flaking, which was probably indirect percussion flaking on these. Okay, I think that's it. You have any more questions on the types? One more thing, I guess. I do have some hafted points here. This one here, this one here. This is a Garza that I did in a video, and this is a Scalhorn. Okay. This is a total of 80 grains. This is 124 grains total. Kind of gives you an idea of the weight. Sorry if it's blurry. Okay, and I said I was going to do some artsy type arrowheads in the future. I've got a few that I made a long time ago, and I'm going to make some more of these. These are actually two-piece. This part down here is separate, a separate piece from this part up here. I'll use my forehead as a... Can you see that? It's a two-piece setup where this piece down the bottom is napped to be like a trapezoid, and this main one has a little stem inside. Anyway. It makes it look like it's very narrow entry notching, but it's not. Obsidian and chert on these. And these are just cut off. I'm going to, taper it down so that there'll be proper foreshafts. Okay? All right.